Hey everybody, Seth Apter here. I'm coming to you from my studio in New York City. Thanks so much for joining me today. I want to share with you a technique that I love to use. It's so simple and it has a lot of impact. It's using embossing powder and stencils. Traditionally, embossing powder is used with stamps, but there's so many other uses, and I'm going to be sharing a series of videos with you that show you all different ways to use them. I have just recently released a new line of embossing powders from Emerald Creek, a wonderful Canadian craft company. And the line is called Baked Texture. There are 7 different flavors, and today I'm going to focus on this one. This is Rocky Road. I'm going to show it to you close up so you can see what it looks like before it's melted. It's black powder that also has a mix of grays and taupes and whites and some nice small crystals that give it a special sheen that you'll see when it's melted. I'm going to start by showing you how I do this technique. You just need a stencil. I'm using my Techno Circle from stencilgirl.com, and you need a background, something to actually stencil onto. This is a piece of 4" by 4" watercolor paper that I've painted and inked before. I'm going to decide where I want to place my stencil. I'm going to place it off center. I think that's much more interesting. I'm going to get my embossing pad, which if you've never embossed before, is like an ink pad, except instead of ink, it has glue. I'm going to take a craft sponge and get the glue on my sponge and begin to pounce through the stencil onto the background. One thing I want to mention is that because the embossing pad is sticky, sometimes it will lift your stencil up as you're pouncing. So you want to make sure that you hold your stencil down as you do this. I also go through several times just to make sure that I have the glue from the embossing pad through every hole. I lift up my stencil. One thing you'll notice right away is that you can't see what I've done. The ink, which is really glue from the embossing pad, is invisible. I'm going to take my embossing powder and I'm going to pour it over the area that I just stenciled. You might notice that underneath my 4" by 4" watercolor paper, I have a sheet of regular paper. That's because what I'm going to do is dump the excess embossing powder off. Just take a quick look at what that looks like dry. I already like it. Could even just leave it this way, but we're not. And then the excess embossing powder that's on this sheet, I'm going to take the sheet, fold it in half, and pour it back into the jar. One of the great things about embossing powder is that a little goes a long way. These small jars last a long time. I'm going to put the jar aside and cap it so that it doesn't blow around. I'm going to cap my embossing pad so it doesn't dry out. Get my heat gun, and I'm going to heat up I'm going to stop for a second just to show you that it's begun to turn. You can see it catch the light. I never get tired of the magic of embossing powder melting. And there you have it. It's so simple. You never want to touch the embossing powder right after it's melted. It's hot and it's also wet. I'm going to hold it up close so you can get a sense of the texture and the surface. It won't take long to dry at all. I love the strength of this particular flavor, the Rocky Road, because it is so strong off a lighter background. It's already dry. You may or may not be able to hear. I'm hoping you can, but there's a little roughness and grit to this. It catches the finger, but at the same time it has this beautiful sheen, so it has the best of both worlds. This is such an easy process to do. You can do it with any stencil that you have and do it quite quickly and simply. I want to thank you for joining me today. I will be back soon with another technique and another video. Thanks so much for spending your day with me. Bye-bye.